Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So the new handicap marks are out. I've had a look through those and there are some that have definitely caught my eye. Some of these I did mention in my eye catchers yesterday, or my eye catchers video that I recorded yesterday from over the weekend and over last week at Goodwood. There are a few that also we didn't talk about in that video. So there may be some overlap, but I've also highlighted the targets, especially now being able to use their new handicap marks. So we start off with Aberama Gold, who was a bit of an interesting one in the fact that didn't run in the Stewards Cup this year. Won it last year off 95. They ran on, when was the first? They ran last Thursday instead at Wolverhampton in a racing league, that silly competition race, and finished fourth. Didn't run badly. Found things happening a bit quick. But considering they could have turned up for the Stewards Cup off a lower mark, you have to wonder what they're doing. Now, I think the big key for Aberama Gold is the ground, and I think he's running well despite the ground. If we actually look at his last two wins, heavy going in a Portland, heavy going in the Stewards Cup. I think that's key to him. I think that's why they're waiting for a race that really suits him on the turf, on soft or heavy going, and we're going to get some rain at some point, aren't we? If we do, and when we do, there's a couple of races that I think could be very interesting for him. Obviously, the Air Gold Cup could certainly be one they look at. The ground, you know, it's all about that ground. That's not until the 21st of September, and hopefully by then we've had a bit of rain. It's whether he gets in that now, being rated 89. He might be right on the bottom there. So he may have to run in something like the Air Silver Cup. Now, I think he's won one of them. He did. He won no, he didn't. He won a handicap. He ran in a Silver Cup off 88 before, finished 9th. But that was on good ground. And then about a month later, he went back to Air for another 6 furlong race on heavy going and won it. He won that off 85. Now, if he doesn't get in the Gold Cup and has to run in the Silver Cup, the ground is the big one for him. If he gets that soft ground, he could certainly go really well in whichever cup he gets in at Ayr. Alternatively, he could run the week before in the Portland over just shy of 6 furlongs. Doncaster at that time of year, there's more correlation to be softer ground for some reason. And I think that was the last race he actually won. It was back in 2023. Now, he won that off a mark of 96, so if he turned up off 89, he would have a massive chance, wouldn't he? It's all about the ground for Aberama Gold, but you've got to keep him in your NAGMI, because as soon as he gets that ground, he will be very interesting. You know, unless he's running in a Group 3 or Group 2 or Group 1 race, you know, any handicap on soft ground, you'd be interested. If it's at Ayr, Doncaster, Goodwood, there's a few other courses that could be interesting as well, Hamilton. Just keep an eye out for him when it comes up a bit softer. Moving on to Holloway Boy. Now, Holloway Boy was allowed to run at Goodwood in the Golden Mile off his original mark of 105. He was due to go up a pound to 106, and since then the handicap has actually dropped him again back down to 105. I thought he was unfortunately too prominent at Goodwood. It worked out that those held up finished better. I thought he ran a huge race at Sandown and was just beaten by a potentially well handicapped horse in Cicero's Gift, and he was very, very unlucky at Ascot. All three of those came off a mark of 105, and the fact that he's been left on 105, he's going to go well again. And, you know, I think he'll be about the same sort of price next time, 4, 5, 6 to 1 sort of price. I want to see him run here. This Palmer & Co. Champagne Handicap Stakes. 4 horses rated 86 to 105, so he would get in right at the top. It's not the most lucrative race. It's only worth a total prize fund of 45, so it's probably going to be about 18, 19, 20 grand for the winner. But I think that will also probably mean that it doesn't attract the rivals that it might do if it was worth 100 grand or 150 grand. But with that in mind, I think Holloway Boy would win that. And, you know, he's been unlucky at Ascot. He ran well at Sandown. He ran well at Goodwood. Surely now's the time to go forget about trying to win a handicap now. Let's go and win a normal handicap rather than one of these feature ones, and then go back up in grade. I think they'll then be able to go back to listed and group company, and I think he'll hold his own in those races. Some of his form last year was pretty good. He looked well handicapped at the beginning of the season, and I think they've kind of stuck to it for the moment. But yeah, if he goes to Ascot, can win this race of 105, and then you can find a listed or group race to end the season with him. Moving on to Metier, who has dropped pound to 98, and I think that's quite interesting because you can see he's not had that many runs since his Chester Cup win in May of last year. Now, that only came off a mark of 97, sorry. He's down to 98, so he's only a pound higher. And to be fair, he beat Zoffy that day, and Zoffy obviously went and won it this year. Well, on the back of that, that's obviously really good form. Back in 7th was Emin, who's come out and finished 2nd in the Chester Cup. So I think that was a good Chester Cup, and off a pound higher mark, you'd have to give him a similar chance if he turned up in another one. There isn't a Chester Cup at this time of year, but there is a Watergate Cup on the 14th of September. It's over 2 mile. The slight drop in trip shouldn't be an issue. Interesting, it's over 2 mile. I'm sure it's been over 2.2 recently in previous years. But yeah, the slight drop in trip won't be an issue. And yeah, I think that's where we'll see Metier. It's good prize money as well. It's worth a total prize fund of 100 grand. Yeah, as I said, he's been tried in slightly better races since winning that. He went to a Group 1 next time in October at Longchamp. He then went to Sandown for a handicap hurdle. Then came back to Newbury in a feature handicap, but off 101. And disappointed. And has then been seen in a Group 3. And then actually ran okay, finishing 8th in that decent handicap over in Ireland, over 2 mile 1. The trip will be fine. We know he likes the course. And he's only off a pound higher mark than when winning the Chester Cup. So you would imagine that this Watergate Cup should be his target. That said, I do also want to see Law of the Sea in that race, and if he turned up as well, I'd rather they both didn't turn up and just one of them. Just one of them turn up would be better than both of them, because then it would be tricky to split them and decide who I was going to have a bet on, or I might end up having a bet on both of them. Moving on to Summergand. Summergand has been dropped to another pound to 89. And yeah, he's so frustrating. He's frustrating because he just doesn't get a clear run. So often he doesn't get a clear run over 6, and that's the key to him. He needs a clear run, and he needs 6 furlongs. I'm almost giving, he's running out of chances before it becomes too expensive to keep backing him. I do think we'll see him next time in a couple of weeks on the 17th of August in the Great St Wilfrid. Now, he ran in this race last year. I've mentioned this before in many videos. He finished 2nd to Sophia's Starlight, who would be a danger if Sophia's Starlight turned back up. But if Summergand returns off 89, got beat last year by a head of 97. Got beat as a 9-year-old off 97 when beaten by a 3-year-old. So it's not like, oh yeah, but that was years ago when he was 5, 6. He was 9 last year and he still only got beaten a head. He would go very close in that Great St Wilfrid if he gets a clear run. Ideally, what Summergand needs is the widest course going where he can get a clear run over 6 furlongs, and he would go really close. I don't believe his age is an issue. Moving on, Tritonic dropped a pound to 92. I talked about him in my previous video. The horse doesn't stay 2.5 mile. I'm really surprised they keep trying him over 2.5 mile. They've run him over 2 mile over hurdles and fences, and then they run him over 2.5 over on the flat. It doesn't work out. It doesn't equate. He needs to be dropped in trip, but he has dropped in the handicap now, and that could be ideal for him. So he's dropped, as I said, he dropped £1 to 92. Dropping £1 to 92 when we can see here, where is it? Here it is, Haydock. He was 4th in 2023 at Haydock in the Old Borough Cup. That came off a mark of 100. He was beaten by the classy post-impressionist, the group horse Keys Chorister, and the highly tried, and sometimes he turns up, sometimes he doesn't, Enemy, who, yeah, after doing so well in that, what did he finish? He finished 3rd that day. Enemy's been to Kempton, he's been to Meydan since, he's been to Riyadh, where he finished second in a Group 3. So that form was actually really strong, finishing 4th there, behind, as I said, Post Impressionist, Keys Chorister and Enemy. He would return this year off a £8 lower mark. Just had to do some maths there. 100 to 92, what's the difference? I worked it out to be 8. I'm sure you're all very proud of me. Off an £8 lower mark in the Old Borough Cup, I think he would go really well. And his effort last time out demonstrated that he travels nicely off this mark. He just doesn't quite get home. But yeah, dropping in trip for the Old Borough Cup on the 7th of September, this race here, I think he would run a huge race. Moving on to Revit. Revit has dropped £2 to 91, which is quite nice. He is dropping significantly in the handicap. He's gone from 98, 97, 95, 93, now down to 91. And it wasn't as bad as it looked last time out when beating 6 lengths at Goodwood behind Toy Me Son. Now, obviously, Toy Me Son was top rated that day, so the form of the race should work out quite nicely, albeit he was a long way behind Revit, or a long way in terms of positions. Where do you go with him? I think it's really obvious. There's this mile handicap, on the 21st of September. In actual fact, they won this race last year. It's for horses rated 81 to 100. He is rated 91. He won this race last year at 92 of 95. It looks a no-brainer to me. I did tweet this, as I do. I tweet this and then I record the video. I tweeted it. I included Middleham Park Racing in the tweet. They have liked it, so fingers crossed that means that's where they're going to go. And yeah, if he turns up at Ayr, I think he'll go very close. He's got some decent form at Ayr. He has won. He's finished 3rd. He's finished 8th. He's finished 1st. He's finished... Are they all his runs? Yes, so he's had 2 wins, a 3rd and an 8th at Ayr. I mean, that should surely prompt the owners to go back to Ayr on the 21st of September. 2 to go. Moving on to this one. Oh, my mouse is just playing up. Veno Victrix, who has dropped another £2 to 84. Starting to look very well handicapped, Veno Victrix. And we've got to remember that a couple of years ago, he actually finished 2nd in the Cesarewitch over 2 mile 2. Now, coming into that, you can see he was in a rich vein of form. 2nd, 2nd, 1st, 2nd. They've kind of got to get him back into form and maybe even win a race to go up high enough in the handicap to get back in the Cesarewitch. He's dropped so low that 84 might not get him in. When he finished 2nd, he was running off 92. However, they could potentially do that by going back to Goodwood. So there's this 2 mile handicap at Goodwood, the Chichester Observer. I'm guessing that's the name of the newspaper, the Chichester Observer, and we start it with so it's the Chichester Observer Handicap Stakes. Anyway, he won this a couple of years ago, beating Malacana by 3 3/4 lengths that day, won it really impressively, and went up enough to get himself into the Cesarewitch. I'm thinking that might be what they try and do with Veno Victrix again, go back to Goodwood. He's got some decent form at Goodwood. He's won that race, as I've just mentioned. He also finished 2nd towards the beginning of the season, and he also finished 4th at the beginning of the season. 4th, beaten 3 1/4 lengths behind Pledge of Allegiance. Well, Pledge of Allegiance went on to win at Royal Ascot. 2nd, next time, to Tenerife Sunshine. I think Tenerife Sunshine's done alright. I'm just having a look on my other screen. What did he do since then? He's actually disappointed since then, but maybe had reached the peak of 87. He's coming back down the handicap. But as you can see, his handicap form at Goodwood is pretty good for Veno Victrix. And yeah, off a new low mark, those runs, as I've just mentioned, came off 88, 92, 90. Oh, he's actually been there a couple of times, another couple of times back here, look. Here. No, here, sorry. You can see here, 11th and 4th. Off marks of 92, 90, 87, 87, and then could run off 84. That's where we've got to see him next in this race at Goodwood, here on the 25th of August. And finally, the last one we're going to end on is Lord Ridderford, who the handicapper has dropped him a whopping £3 for that run. down to a mark of 79. Now, don't forget, the horse actually ran off 85 in the week because it was a race that he was out of the handicap. He was £3 out of the handicap. So he's effectively, if he was to run off his correct mark next time, he'd be running off a £6 lower mark. Now, first of all, that would give him a good chance. But also, he just needs a bit of cut in the ground, I feel, and needs to jump out on terms. He was slowly away, all chance, lost at the beginning because he needs that cut anyway. And if he wasn't up there with the pace, he was never going to be able to keep up. He wasn't able to do that. It didn't work at Goodwood, trying to win that race for the 4th time. But yeah, I think they'll go back there in a few weeks, 24th of August, for this 5 furlong handicap. For horses rated 76 to 95, so he would get in. I'm just worried that he might get in right near the bottom again and actually be out of the handicap. If he's not out of the handicap and he gets in off his proper weight, as I said, he'd be running off a £6 lower mark, and that would be some drop for Lord Ridderford back at the course that you know he runs well at generally. So yeah, they're my horses that have caught my eye this week with their handicap marks. Aberama Gold, look out for him in something like the Portland or the Ayr something cup. Could be the silver, could be the bronze. Holloway Boy back to Ascot because of his handicap mark being dropped a pound. He does get in this race to 0 to 105 again. Metier back to Chester for the Watergate Cup over 2 mile. That'll be... he'll only be a pound higher than when winning the Chester Cup, when beating the subsequent winner. Summergan for the Great St Wilfrid would turn up this year off 89, running it last year off, 97, £8 higher mark, got beat by a head. Tritonic needs to drop in trip, but he could do next time in the Old Borough Cup. He would be £8 lower than when finishing 4th behind 3 good horses. Revit back to Ayr for the race he won last year. Won it off 95, could turn up off 91. Veno Victrix also back to a race that he won previously at Goodwood. He won it off 88 that day. He could run off 84 if he goes for this race at Goodwood on the 25th of August. And finally, Lord Ridderford, if he gets in off his correct mark next time back at Goodwood, he'd effectively be running off a £6 lower mark, not just a £3 lower mark.